We have a woman who was heavily involved in getting housing and employment rights protected at the State House and was on the board for Marriage Equality Rhode Island, as well as a former board member for Rhode Island Pride. That's right. According to our dear friend John Kelly, our mutual friend, if it wasn't for her and many others, we would not have been able to navigate through the legislation and lobbying to get these bills passed. Please give it up one more time for Kate Montero.
Hi, everybody. You know, the first time I can do it without a mic. You can cut it if you want. The first time anybody handed me a mic here at the State House, it was still legal to fire anyone for being transgendered or for wearing a dress because they wanted to wear a dress if their landlord thought they shouldn't. It was still perfectly reasonable to be sent to the ACI for 20 years just for engaging in certain kinds of heterosexual sex, let alone homosexual sex. It was legal for all sorts of horrible discriminations, and in far too much of our country, let alone the world, it is still perfectly legal to fire somebody for being gay or lesbian or transgendered. It's still perfectly legal to throw them out of their houses, and that's something that we tend to forget in Rhode Island because we don't want to remember bad times. No one ever wants to remember bad times. But it was also a moment when not only were all of those beautiful souls in Orlando alive, so was Matthew Shepard, and so was Rita Hester, and so were the hundreds of thousands of people who have died from HIV and AIDS since. We must never forget them, even though it's so much easier to look at the sun and look at the future. I'm something of a community historian, and I want you to know that a little over 100 years ago, someone named Emma Goldman, anarchist, socialist, immigrant, atheist, feminist, deported Emma Goldman, was arrested in the city of Providence for open air speaking and for drawing a crowd. And she spent 24 hours in jail before the mayor of Providence, who had ordered her to be arrested, ordered her to be released. And he ordered her to be released because she had been organizing the inmates and her jailers. Emma Goldman was ordered to leave Providence and never come back, and 3 months later, she came back. Emma Goldman persisted. We persist. Emma Goldman very famously said, "It's not my revolution if I can't dance." And she certainly was told what she could not do more often than not. But Emma Goldman is one of our progenitors. We are heirs to her, the first person in North America to publicly advocate for LGBTQ rights. And I have this historian's fantasy. I have this fantasy that maybe she was preaching LGBTQ civil rights in Market Square that day when she was arrested. We are heirs to a great diversity, not just Emma Goldman, but Bayard Rustin, who organized the March on Washington in 1963, the day that I was born. That makes me so happy as a historian. But as we are heirs to Bayard Rustin, we are also heirs to Harry Hay. Harry Hay, communist. Harry Hay, radical fairy. We are heirs to Jose Sarria, the first man to run as an openly gay candidate for election in the United States, and the founder of the Imperial Court. We are heirs to Harvey Milk, who you know, and Barbara Smith, and Barbara Giddings, to Stormy DeLavery, who you may not know, but who threw the first punch at Stonewall, as opposed to Sylvia Rivera and Marsha P. Johnson, who threw the first rocks at Stonewall. We are at the same time heirs to Christine Jorgensen and Frank Kemeny, to Larry Kramer and to Mary Bonanno. If you put all of those people in a room someplace, you would come out with 1,000 different plans for revolution. But that's not just okay. That's the way it's supposed to be. We are supposed to have 1,000 plans for revolution. We are supposed to have 1,000 ways of being who we are deep down inside. If there were one true path to freedom, the masters of the universe would have destroyed it long ago. There is no one true path. We are all, every day, forging the paths. Some days it's in the streets, some days it's in this state house, some days it's in Washington, and some nights it's in Onlyville, and some years it's in Burrville. But some days it's in who we fight, and more often than not, it's in who we love. Our revolution is always, every day, everywhere, in every way, because it is always in every single one of us. We must hold each other accountable. We must hold each other to our best selves, but we must never hold each other down. Instead, we must hold each other up in love. For we are not free as long as any of us fear the knock on the door, as long as any of us fear the flashing lights in the rearview mirror, or the fist of a partner or a family member. We are not free as long as any of us goes without a bed, or without a meal, or without a doctor. We are not free as long as the lives of the many are sacrificed to the whims of the few. And on this anniversary of the massacre in Orlando, we come together to reaffirm our most sacred vow that our revolution will never end until we are all free to dance.